Now, in chapter 9, her baby sister Danielle is born, and they have to walk 2 hours to the hospital. And she said it went so fast because I was so excited walking all that way. And but it was also, in chapter 9 where she does talk about her mum, bleeding in the drugstore, just being freshly beaten up. And, that whole, do I expose our dirty secret, and looking at her mum, not knowing what to say to the police and not wanting to give away. It really shows you how loyal children can be to their parents, no matter what's going on at home, no matter how shitty it is.
Because that's all they know. They were born into it, and that's all they know. So, was it the Maslow 5 steps? But it's like roof over my head, they're feeding me, they're clothing me, regardless to the standards. And this is the only life or love that I know. This is the only thing I know. So you're going to still be protective because you don't want that to be broken, because this is what's familiar to you.
And also there's, on top of that, there is the I was born bad. This is what I deserve.
I mean, that's just deep. I was born bad.
Yeah.
Nobody is born bad.
No.
Especially at that age. This is where we're kind of innocent. Because remember, it's like, it's what the parents instill in us. They instill, for those that want to instill racism and hate and whatever. But no child is born bad. No child. But again, she felt that way because of the way she was existing. And I suppose, again, I can't recall the parents giving them words of strength. I know, there was only one time when, when it was really bad and they couldn't go to school, but the sister's like, I'm going to school. And she kind of cleaned her eyes from the sleep and everything. And I heard it and she's like, how do I look? And the mum said, oh, you look fine. You look good. That was the only thing that I heard so far of any praise from the family, from the parents. But at the same time, that's all you know. And you don't want it. It's what's familiar to you. And like you said, children, they are like, they're protective. They still want to protect the crap or the rubbish that they're going through.
Yeah. And as a teacher, it's hard sometimes when you really want to ask a child, is everything okay at home? But there's such a fine line for us teachers as well. And we're on the front line with that. We're the ones that see them every day. We're the ones that get to know them. And teachers are obviously, we're supposed to be trained in asking non-leading questions. And I think teachers need to be trained in that more often and refreshed in what that actually means.
Definitely.
Have you ever had training in that?
No. I can't recall. Did we have it when you were in London? No.
I don't think so. I'd heard of it, and then I got exposed to more to it when I came back here.
I'm trying to think.
Because I had to, because I had to make a few calls to the authorities and report certain things. I was trained a little bit by other staff in the school to just ensure that I knew how to do it. But it's hard. It's actually difficult.
It is, because I have, in my experience, come across, neglect. And kids coming into school smelling. I've experienced that. So that's why I feel it for Viola, because I really have ample respect for her teacher. I've forgotten her name. But there was only so much back then she could do. Because again, teachers didn't really interfere with the families, but I like the fact that the teacher would give Viola clothes as well.
And she would stand in the playground.
Like, look at me, I'm so important, which is really nice. And that's why it goes to show that, anything that you don't need, you just go and give it to charity, because there's people out there worse than you. Don't just chuck it away. So I just think it's so good now, because back then it would be pass me downs. I never had pass me downs because I was the only girl, but like, it'd be passing down your outfits and things like that. But I feel, Viola, because, again, being a teacher, and you do suspect sometimes kids that are being abused just by certain actions and certain things that they say. But then there are some kids that are very open and they say it as it is. I remember there was one particular student many years ago, and she was just smelling and smelling, and it wasn't getting any better. And the kids were starting to notice it.
Yeah.
And so I remember I bought shampoo, shower gel, hairbrush, this, that, and the other. And took her away. We just went, and there was two of us, two obviously members of staff, because again, it's that whole protection thing. And we said, right, let's take a shower. And I bought her perfume as well, and so then I had deodorant, and so in my cupboard she knew there was, I had bought her a nice toiletry bag, and she knew that this was hers basically. And because again, sometimes it's not the kids' fault, it's what they've been, it's the routine in the home, because then I noticed that family were just, the personal hygiene was not good.
Well, you've got to remember, especially working at a special needs school, we also came across a lot of parents with special needs.
With special needs as well, so they can't look after themselves. So, and it was uplifting, because I remember when she had the shower, and she was just looking so good and smelling so good, and I was like, oh, you smell so good, and she's smiling, because she was always, you can tell, just into her, very, and she was smiling. And then I remember she didn't care that her hair was still wet, and she didn't care that the kids knew. And she came out, and and you just saw this kind of glow. And it made me feel so good. And I just said, look, I know, but it's, again, you have to pick your words. And I said, look, I know you've got a routine at home, but this is a routine that you should follow at least. If you don't shower in the morning, maybe shower at night, and have, freshen up in the morning, and explaining that you can't put dirty clothes on a clean body. But again, like you said, some of our kids' parents with special needs, or just, it's hard. Because the one thing that I think that, there's no perfect parenting. There isn't, But at the same time, maybe we should write a book about parenting, because you don't have to be a parent to do parenting, but it's just the basic routines, maybe given to young girls to know that this is the basic thing that you have to do. I don't know, because, there's still a lot of young people that don't realise certain things that you should do, and hygiene, whatever. But it was, like I said, I've come across a few people, and it's just been so uplifting and rewarding, knowing that I've impacted. And it's not for me, but on this
person. And it's so little for you, but you've just taught her a complete life skill that she will take.
Love yourself. Yeah.
And you're worthy.
So used to the smell. She was so used to it. And because it was upsetting where the kids were noticing that this child was smelling. So imagine, Viola. And back then, I don't think schools, would they have had No, we didn't. Because we're talking 60s. There was showers to shower yourself with. But then when you go to secondary school, I don't know what they call it, high school or whatever, you did have showers, because you'd have to do it after PE.
My high school didn't.
Oh, really?
No, we didn't have showers. I'm pretty sure we didn't.
No, I remember we did. And I don't know what the practice is now, because I think now they don't even bother. You might have it there, but I don't even think it's standard routine now, because of time. You're limited for time.
Time, and probably bullying and sexual stuff and all that sort of stuff. Well, let's go to chapter 10.
Yes.
Chapter 10 is called The Starting Block. And just the heading gives you hope that somehow she's going to start getting out of this shit. And I love her quote that my dreams were bigger than the fear.
Yeah.
So for her, she actually said it was very much success or die. There was no in between. And she had never even considered there being an in between. So and she also learned that success means being vulnerable and failing. And, that was a hard lesson for her to take, because I don't think she'd ever been exposed to, oh, well, better luck next time. Exactly. It's always, I've got to be the best all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, and actually failure does make you stronger.
Yeah.
But again, it's just, again, how, what she went through as a child. So it's just always wanting to succeed.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the knockbacks for her would be a bit harder than what it would be for many other people that didn't go through the childhood that she went through.
Yeah. And it's when she starts going to the after school drama program or whatever it is that she's doing called Upward Bound. And she's starting to learn that, and I've got here, it says, my lesson from Upward Bound was you have to open your mouth and tell your own friggin' story. And that terrified me more than rats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that bit.
It's scary telling your truth. And here she is in a space where she's allowed to suddenly be vulnerable.
But the thing is, when you're in acting, that's what you're meant to do. You're actually meant to open up and be your true self. But she's been always, despite the poverty, everything that she was going through, she kept it, it wasn't open. So even though the kids knew that,
secret, she called it.
Yes, it was a secret. So even though she knew, obviously she bedwetted and they would have smelt it, but it wasn't a discussion she had. She didn't talk about any friends that she had at school, did she?
Not really, no.
She didn't talk about a particular friend. It would be the neighbours in the blocks, because we did miss that with the 2 boys, but the 3 boys. But she didn't seem to talk about having a best friend in school. Where you could be open, you could be vulnerable. Like, all the kids knew where she lived.
Yeah.
But they didn't know. She never spoke about, like you might have a best friend, you have that friend and you'll talk about everything and you'll open up your secret. She didn't have that. I think it's just the lived experience she had with her siblings.
Yeah.
It must be really hard, because again, you're an actor and you've got all these, I've been to art college, so you've got all these fancy people, and it's like
when I did my exactly,
and everything like that, and I'm going to be outspoken and I can dress how I want to dress. But because she's gone through what has gone through, she most really wants to hide it. She doesn't want everyone to know what she has her journey been, because it's an embarrassment to her. Do you remember? Because she was born bad.
Yeah.
So it must be really hard as a creative to not actually express and be open.
Yeah.
And
but at the same time, isn't it interesting? She stopped bedwetting.
Yes.
When she was able to do this.
Yes.
And she only wet the bed once later.
Yes.
But finally, when she's, taken that step off the starting block, it's curing that in some way.
Yes, it is. It is.
So, I mean, that's not related to the rats.
No.
Is that related to self-worth?
I think so, because she's seeing the light. She's seeing a tiny glint of light that she's moving forward.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what happens with bedwetting as well, or whatever you're going through. It doesn't matter what, there is an age. Some people, for years they do it.
Yeah.
But there's always a point where you stop.
Yes. Yeah.
And for her, that's when it stopped, because she saw the light.
Yeah. But also she was trying to do every single after school program so that she wouldn't have to go home. less time at home.
Yes.
And she
again,
would go
get away from reality.
Yeah. And she'd try and eat at friends' houses. And she had a friend come over from school. She did talk about a particular friend came home from school with her one day and opened up Viola's fridge and said, "Oh, are you moving?"
Because there was nothing in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the friend came over. She didn't say a name.
No.
That's maybe the only person that's gone over to see.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
Because even though things were looking up, food was still scarce.
Yeah.
Money was still scarce.
Dad was still drinking.
Dad was still drinking.
Mum's still getting beaten up.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she was, you know, I'm looking at chapter 11 now and it says being seen. And, you know, I wrote down here that her sister Anita went to college. Her sister Diane was at Howard University. So somehow, you know, all these girls, by sticking together, they were like, we're going to get out of here. You know, that sisterhood that they had between them, they raised each other up.
They did, which was good. And it was because of the older sister as well. Yeah. You know, remember she was the one, because obviously she was failing, and then she went and she was like getting tutoring, and then she would go and tell her siblings, you know, so that they were, and again, that's, you know, that's such a mature thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, such a mature thing to do. So you can feel the love and the support of the siblings. Yeah.
And at one stage there, the parents were cut off from welfare because the father was earning money, and they didn't really, you know, they didn't judge it. It's like, you're earning money, bang, cut. They don't ask how much. They never judged it like that. And so one of her teachers helped her enter a drama competition, I think, by paying the fee for her.
Yes.
And she got into the top 30 out of 1,200 students and had to go to Miami. So now she's like, first experience of getting the hell out of there.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Which is really good.
Yeah. But she still remembers that she's still, even in that chapter when all of that's happening, things are starting to happen, she's still carrying the shame.
She's carrying that weight on her shoulders. And I mean, you got to think, she's lived it for so many years, you know, so that is instilled in her. That weight is still there. You know, in these day and age, you'll go and get counselling, or, you know, but it's, it's back then, that was not the case.
No.
And again, you know, it's a stigma, you know, Black people, you know, we don't need any help, we don't need any counselling, you know, keeping everything quiet, you know, not being open, you know, trying to be strong, don't let the other, you know, don't be defeated, kind of thing. So it's, you know, even though good is happening, and I kind of get it, because good is happening, but you still think about the past, or you think about,
do I deserve this?
I deserve this. And then you have your fears, because you don't want anyone to know what you've been through, or what sort of background you come from.
Yeah.
You know, where now so many people reinvent themselves on social media. It's quite interesting. But back then,
well, there's also a new wave coming out in social media now where people are really sick of the fake stuff. They want the authentic. They want
everything. Yes, it's just everything.
You know, no filters and all the rubbish. Like, people are getting sick of it. And
it's just false.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying, once I stopped trying to be something and was myself, then suddenly people started following me.
Well, this is what happens, you know. At some point, you know, you're perceiving you're happy, and it's quite interesting, because I wonder how Viola was with other people. You know, like when you're sad and you're not happy with your home life, and usually, even though, you know, some people, I've come across it before, where they're just overly happy, and you're wondering, why are you so happy? Like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm a bit grumpy. I need to sort of shift, you know, and
I need my coffee.
You know, I remember I came across this particular person, in a workplace years ago when I was much younger, and we'd go to work, and all of us are like just sort of starting to warm up. You know, it's a Saturday job, you know, warming up, you know, kind of thing. And she's like, right, okay, and then we'd go out partying, we'd go to nightclubbing, and she was always like extra dancing and really happy. And I'm like, gosh, why are you so happy all the time?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, and I started to question it.
Yeah.
And then when we got to know each other a bit more, I realized she didn't have a good upbringing. She wasn't in a happy home. So every time she was out away from her home and her family, that was when she was at her happiness. But it was just such a funny false facade. So it's quite interesting with Viola, you know, because obviously, you know, she's closed up and don't want to be, you know, she's closed up, but yet my friend, or this girl, not a friend, but this girl that I knew, she would just be all out there, but it was just so extra. It was concerning to me. I mean, everyone thought, oh, she's great, she's funny, she's bubbly, but I always felt that there was something behind it. And I was right, actually, you know, and she was a troubled soul, to be honest with you. She was a troubled soul. So yes, it must be really hard for Viola to let go. Because a lot of people that you know, there's a few people that I've come across in my lifetime who've had hardships, and some still hold on to it. Yeah. And I find when you hold on to it, you do not excel. You're stuck in that rut. No. But Viola, as we know, as we go through, or as we can see how she is now, she worked on herself. She worked on herself to be where she is now. You know, and it's accepting who you are. And obviously she's had to learn through her journey, through the people that she's met, and you know, you learn through people and advice, and you see, you know, sometimes you don't have to be outspoken one, you can actually watch and observe. And I think, you know, that's how she self-healed, and self-awareness and self-love. I'm sure deep down
it didn't come later. It didn't come till much later though. Like, no. Even so, I'm looking at
like
chapter 12.
Older. Because it was like 28 when things started. Yes. So
a long time
still, but she got there.
Well, she got the scholarship through to go to Rhode Island College. And in chapter 12, she says that she did that, but she became depressed. She was missing her little sister. And she was still not feeling good enough. So she still felt like an imposter, you know, that I don't belong here. You know, how is this happening? And I don't deserve this. And then she had made a comment about, she decided, I'll be a teacher. I'm going to trade in my dream and be a teacher. And it really got me thinking, because my dream, of course, was to be on stage. That was my dream as a child. And that was my dream as a teenager. And I went to university and did a Bachelor of Music and Drama and all that stuff. And I traded in that dream for something more sensible. So, and I don't have regrets about it, but I can see how, you know, Viola would have been thinking, because one of her sisters, I think, became a teacher as well.
Her sister became a teacher, yes.
Yeah. And
they must be amazing. She must be an amazing teacher, because she will pick out those vulnerable ones that need support. Yeah. And that's what, you know, that's passion there.
Yeah. Yeah. So she became depressed. And then while she was away, her sister Anita and her mum and Danielle, who smelt of urine, all came to her dorm or wherever she was living on campus.
Yes.
And her sister Anita was 8 months pregnant. And they're looking to her, they're looking to Viola to say, what do we do? Help us out. You know? And she was on a scholarship, and I think she was working.
Yes.
And sending them money.
That's heavy. And she was struggling herself. If she was, you know, And people think because you're in this place that, you know, you've got, you know, you're working your way upwards, but it takes a while till you build that kind of bank account, you know, that kind of amount of money that you think that will be able to help everyone else. You know, you first, you know, you build it up, and acting and getting the work and getting the jobs, as we'll know further in, but it's not easy.
And it's not consistent.
And you know, and so it's, but I suppose the reason why Mum and everyone went to her, because they saw that she was out of it. So her, that's all they saw. It was like, she's, you know, she's under another roof and she's out of it, and we need to get out, you know, we need your support right now, because things ain't great.
There, but her sister Danielle, she's at Howard University and playing state basketball. Like, surely she needed to have a job too, to keep going, or a scholarship or something. Like, why was Viola the one that they went to? I mean, Viola was youngest. She was the second youngest.
But maybe it could be because of the sort of personality Viola was. Maybe. You know, we don't know about, even though she was the youngest, we don't know the advice and the encouragement that she was given as she was older to the older ones, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't know, because it's kind of switched, because, you know, for her, because maybe with the older siblings, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they could, because they just saw her push. Maybe she was strong. She was most probably stronger.
Maybe.
Because a bit further down, she will mention about her siblings and their well-being. There's a bit where they mention. So I now thinking, I can see why they most probably went to Viola. Because, you know, they've gone through a lot. So I'm sure the sisters, we're seeing Viola's demons, or the things that really upset her, you know, her fighting the demons, should I say, not her demons, her fighting those demons, those things that have, you know, impacted in her life. But we don't know what their demons are, or what they're fighting, because we don't really get to know, you know, because obviously we're seeing it through Viola's eyes, aren't we? We're seeing it through her eyes. So at the beginning, we see her as the youngest and looking up to, but then it's obviously a switch somewhere along the lines.
Well, there is, and, you know, while she was, you know, studying there, you know, her sister said to her, Dolores asked her, why aren't you acting? Like, why aren't you focusing on that? So she must have noticed that Viola was starting to go, oh, what's the safe thing to do? Maybe I should go into teaching or whatever. And Viola said, I'm just going to do it. And when she had made that decision, I'm just going to go with acting, she said the depression fell away, because she was starting to live her path. Yeah, her truth. Limbo. And she said the cure was courage. Yeah. And isn't it funny when you make a decision and you go, you know what, this is what makes me happy. This is what I'm going to put everything into. This is what brings me joy. It's amazing. Like, when I very first decided I'm definitely going to start a podcast, the joy that I had, people who were around me, I was dancing and singing, and I was so excited, and I was doing around 50 hours a week of learning as much as I could online on about recording and how to build a website, how to do, like, I was so over the top excited. I was also in lockdown, but it stopped me from going out of my mind in lockdown, and couldn't work, and I didn't have any money, and So it's when you find something that, you know what, I've got some purpose here and I'm going to love it. It does. It makes a lot of other things fall away.
It definitely does. Because obviously with my circumstance, you know, your eyes do open a little bit more. You know, not that I've always been aware of things, and I've always lived the best for me and everything like that. And I'd say I was always quite a sensible person. And
another way that we're different. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, understanding. You know, I was always to come to people. People will always come to me and I'd always advise and everything like that. And then when I, you know, the situation that I'm in, but I'm sure we'll do this in another podcast, but then I had to sit back and say, what is my purpose? And I think a lot of people have to do that. You know, what is your purpose on this earth? What is your purpose? You know, strip away your education, your certificates, your luxuries, your all these. What is your purpose? You know, not the labels that's given to you through education and work experience. What's your purpose? And I know what my purpose is. And it's just sad, but it's not sad. It's just the timing and the circumstances that has highlighted my purpose even more so. I mean, who would think today that me and you were sitting down discussing this book on a podcast, you know, and just talking about life in general and, you know, incorporating our life experiences as well.
And we haven't lived in the same city for 10 years now. This year is 10 years that I left you.
I know.
I'm so used to being with you every week.
Exactly. You know, but but it's, you know, our friendship is there. It's tight at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, we were both teachers as well. And who would think, you know, it's just amazing how certain circumstances makes you really think and reflect about what your purpose is in this life. And once you find that purpose, it does uplift you. It does make you feel good about yourself. And the journey is your journey. It's not anyone else's, because a lot of people in society, we live and think about what others think. And I think once you get past that and you know what your worth is, and you know what, you know, you just do what you've got to do. And I think, you know, with Viola, I mean, yes, she could have just gone and been a teacher, and she would have been an amazing teacher regardless. You know, whatever she touched her hands with, she would have been amazing. Yeah. She could have been a social worker and she would be amazing, because she's had that lived experience that she knows that she wouldn't want any other child to do that. But then she's gone into acting, which is something she's always, you know, which is her vocation. But at the same time, she's still having that impact for, you know, young Black women who want to go into the field of acting. Yeah. You know, to say, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So how, you know, Cicely Tyson was her inspiration. Yeah. She's now an inspiration for many. Yeah. And what makes it even easier is social media and everything. And, you know, back then we didn't have autobiographies by Black people, you know, famous people we didn't have that. Yeah. And the fact that she's so open, and it's just so nice that she's found her purpose. Yeah. And like you said, it uplifted her and it gave her that light to say, this is where I am going in life. This is what I want to do. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm sitting here trying to think, what's my purpose? I know what your purpose is. What's my purpose? You know, you've always been a person, you always listen, and you wear your heart on your sleeve, you know, and you're quite a deep person where you appreciate everybody for who they are. You know, and you've got a calming thing about you, and you're very understanding. So what I love about you is you don't discriminate. You know, you're a pure, honest person. You've always been honest. You know, you've been honest with your the goods, and you've been honest with the bads. You know, you're very open. And that's what I like. And you're a person that you always want to help, and you always want to be the fixer, actually. You know, but you have to fix yourself first before you fix anyone else as such. And I failed at that a couple of times. I had 2 nervous breakdowns, you know, in my life, and it was because I was too busy fixing everyone else around me that I fell apart. But look where you're at now. Oh, I don't think I'm a fixer anymore necessarily, but I very much am wanting people to love themselves and finding ways for people to love and accept themselves and to know that they're worthy. That's very important. Yeah. It's very important. And I think that's what we have to do with a lot of children, and it stems from young, instilling that into to children, despite where they're from and their background and wealth and
well, I never
health.
loved myself.
Yeah, well, I did.
Yeah.
I was always confident, but there was a time when I wasn't confident because I suffered with eczema or eczema, and there was a point where I didn't like my skin, and I didn't like, but then I think it made me a better person
to have a
in
flaw.
many ways, because if I saw anybody in the street who looked whichever was different, I didn't look at it like, ooh, I was always just, I can't explain it, but that was the only time as I didn't like my eczema.
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I just thought, this is me. Didn't like my teeth, but this is me. Accept me for who I am. And I've always loved myself in that respect. So despite I didn't like how my skin looked and I didn't like how it felt, but I loved me. I loved me. I thought I love me.
Yeah.
With all my good bits and my flaws, we've all got our flaws, but I have no regrets of my life.
Yeah.
I think we have to all go through life experiences, and everyone's life experiences are different.
But also we need to really accept that no one's got it easy, no matter how privileged.
No.
There's always going to be stuff in their family. There's always going to be something. Nobody's got it perfect.
No. And I think these young people need to realize money is not everything. You're there looking for money, right? I think it's, they always say, I want to be rich, I want to be this, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be, and it's like, it's not even about that. You've got to follow what is true to your heart, because making that money is, if you're lucky, it's a quick rush. Yeah. But it doesn't define who you are. It doesn't define the obstacles that come into your way. And money does not buy love. It does not buy health. It does not, it buys just things. I think you could be wealthy with just basic things. And I think what's more important is the people around you. It's the significant people that respect you and uplift you, are there to support you when you're on a spiral, whether your ups and your downs. It's about us being there when we need, it's about, for me,
surrounding yourself with the right people.
As well as, you want to be surrounded by people that uplift you. And Viola, you can see, she's had people uplifting her and saying things, and because she's not realizing her purpose, but it's having people, because a lot of people don't praise. They're ready to criticize, but they don't praise. They don't praise. And I think
there was that guy that said that she was pretty, and she was like, never heard this before, that's news to me. Well, what's going on there?
Because she never even saw herself as that way.
I remember one of the first comments I got about my looks, because I was an awkward kid growing up. I was always the tallest with the boobs and the big nose and all that stuff. But I remember, because I played tennis competitively, and I remember these mothers on the sideline. I was a teenager with didn't like anything about myself, and these women said, Lisa, we would give anything to have your legs. And I told mum, and because mum didn't really compliment so much at all, especially on looks, and that's the first time mum said, yeah, you've got good legs, you should show them off. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So suddenly I'm like, I've got assets, let's go. I was tits on legs for a long time there, but anyway.
Actually, I had that thing with me as well about my legs. I didn't realize, I liked my legs, but again, I was very skinny. No, I was very slim. I had very long hair, and I didn't realize, like, even though despite eczema. I didn't even know. Even one of my friends says, Jen, you know, this body fancied you, that one. And I didn't even know. I was oblivious to all of that.
Yeah.
But I remember, because I used to wear mini skirts and stuff like that. And I have got, you know, short torso, long legs.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise to what extent it impacted on others. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
You know, there's when later on you realise the little names that they called you. It's quite interesting how people judge you. You don't even realise. You're just living your life. You're like, oh, okay.
Well, weight was something that Viola never ever cared about, because she was hungry all the time. And we get into where she's growing up, you know, everywhere she went, she was like, where's the food? She was always excited. She was like, oh my God, there's food going around this party. You know, she was so excited about food, you know.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. And she
Maslow again, you know, it's like, you know, food. So important.
Yes,
so important.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure for her, but there's bits a bit further along, even down to like living accommodations as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she's going to be very fussy about, you know, where because she's no way going to go back to be living with rats and living in a place where it's.
Well, she goes to college and she gets food Monday to Friday, but then she's hungry Saturday and Sunday. You know, there was
she had a lot of jobs as well, didn't she?
She held down 3 at once while studying. Yeah. So she was a worker. She was no princess, that's for sure.
She didn't have people, nepotism, you know, oh, my dad's a director, I'll become an actor and get the roles that, you know, she grafted to get where she had to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most probably taken on roles, you know, like usually in you know, it's like they will come to you, oh, we've got a movie, it's just written for you. But, you know, you've got those actors that have to just take something just for the sake of it, because they need to pay the bills, they need to eat.
Yeah, and that's what she said. She said, you're privileged if you're, you know, turning around and saying, oh, no, I won't take that role, I'm waiting for something bigger. So she describes that as privilege. She's like, I just want to work.
Exactly.
So she, you know, by chapter 13, she's in New York. She auditions for Juilliard School and she gets in. And she's living in New York. She's budgeting. She's got 3 jobs. And that woman gave her apartment to rent, which was disgusting, living with mice again, revolting. And then, you know, it's interesting that the Juilliard School expected all of them to quit their anything ethnic. So if you're in a jazz group, if you're doing gospel or something on the side, you had to quit. Now, when I did my Bachelor of Music, they said to us, we would prefer you weren't in bands and doing other things while you're studying here. You know, but, you know, for some of us, that's how we earned money, like with our voice, or, you know. But for her, she said, for Viola, that translated very differently to how I read it from my, you know, experience. She said it was forgetting about ourselves and birthing someone artistically acceptable, someone whites could understand. So she had to leave all that behind. And, you know, she got the scholarship purely because she told her truth in that essay. And in that essay, she wrote about, well, you're making us do all these things that have nothing to do with me. They don't reflect my lived experience at all. And she got the scholarship because she told the truth to them. They must have thought, you better give it to her. You know, would have been a shock.
Yes, which is good. You know,
to speak up like that. That's really
speak up. That's a lesson to all of us. Speak up.
Yeah.
Often not, we don't.
Yeah.
That way you don't get anywhere and you're struggling all the time, you know. So there's no harm in telling the truth.
Yeah. And then she went to Africa.
That was brilliant.
She went to Africa and suddenly she's like, oh my goodness, this is music, this is acting,
this is the raw music, this is where music came from. And it's true, because, you know, we all came from Africa. It's true. You know, it's like, oh, you don't have to do this is where music came from. And it's just, she just felt so at home, so uplifted. She's around people that look like her, you know.
Well, it's like, you like what you talk about when you go back to Barbados, you know.
Exactly. It's you know, I mean, it's just, you know, like, it sounds silly, but, you know, like, I've seen more adverts now. Like, one of the things I noticed when I went to Barbados when I was young, and luckily I was exposed to that, so maybe that's another reason why, you know, I'm a bit, you know, I was exposed to that. So you would watch adverts here and it'd just be all white faces, no other families, you know, to represent, you know, London, because people always think London is the Queen's tea and that everybody's white. Actually, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And everyone speaks a certain way, but you've got all these different slangs in different areas.
Well, I had no idea when I came over in 2004. No idea of all the different ways that people would speak English.
Yes, you know, you've got the South Londoners, the North, everybody speaks differently.
Yeah, but then you've got the Caribbean Londoners, you know, that's another accent again.
Exactly. So you've got the twang. So especially those that were born in the Caribbean and have been living here for years, you know, they're quite, you've still got the little accent, but you've still got that British accent as well.
Yeah.
But like, it was nice going to Barbados, even though it's the one channel. Oh gosh, anyway, that's memories. It was just the one channel, but it was like the newsreaders were black, you know, in the adverts it was black. It was really nice. And I was like, wow, you know, that really impacted on me.
Yeah, it would have.
It's nice to go to the bank and just seeing everybody like you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, okay, it's different now in London where you are seeing more diversity. And, you know, I can only speak for London, you know, but obviously there are certain pockets as well where there's a lot of like Caribbean people and so forth, like, you know, you've got Birmingham and places like that. But it's, when I go to Barbados, I feel at home. To me, it's home. Even though I was born and bred in London, and I love England, I'm not going to lie, I do like, you know, but I'm now at an age where if I had my way, I would go and live in Barbados now. I always wanted to retire in Barbados, but that is not going to happen because of my circumstances. But it doesn't mean that I can't go every now and then while I'm strong, you know. And it's just a feeling of belonging. I've never been to Africa, so that's one of the things might be a bit tricky, getting health and travel insurance, but I would like to go to Africa as well, other African countries, you know, and experience it, because I'm so used to, you know, like when I go to France, I go to these places, you know, it's like there's not many black people, or you know, it's you know, you're looked at, not that I care, but you always stick out, you know, you're the needle in the stack, you know. Like I went to Spain the other day, and did I see? No, we were the only. I think me and my daughter were the only black ones in the hotel, but you know, we didn't care. It doesn't matter. Everyone's friend, everyone's lives. It didn't really matter. But it's nice when you go home. I call it home, definitely. And it's just nice. You know, you don't have to worry about racism. You don't have to worry about what the person thinks about how you wear your hair. If I wanted to just do 2 silly bunches, I can just go out. Nobody's going to judge me for that. Nobody's going to worry about anything. You know, my full lips and my nose and whatever the case may be. You just feel at home. You just feel at home. I mean, you went to Barbados. How did you feel being like, you know, you were hanging around, you know, with black people? How did you feel?
I don't know. I loved it.
See, again,
but I was treated very special. Your mum introduced me to the whole town. You know, I was walking in the water with her at 5 a.m. or whatever it was when we went swimming, and I was treated like royalty, because everyone wanted to come and say hello and where are you from, and because I wasn't from England, I was from Australia. I was even more exotic, and because I was an Australian that wasn't blonde like what they imagine, you know, because I always had people always like, where are you from? And, you know, and I'm like, when I say Australian, especially, you know, traveling, they're confused. They're like, you don't look Australian, because they have this perception of, well,
well, obviously Australians are from England, so yes.
But I felt very white on the dance floor, in Barbados. I could not do that move with my butt. I could not. When that guy came to dance with me, I'm like, I just felt, I was like, I can dance, but not.
You can. We'll have to practice it. I think you got to practice a bit more. I'm not an expert either, but I can see my little.
Yeah, it's like is it called soca? What's it called?
Yes, soca.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Exactly. No, but it is a different feeling when you go to a place and you just feel, because unless you are living it, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
There are some people that do feel uncomfortable when they're in an environment where you're the only Black person or the only Asian person, so forth and whatever. And because obviously England, it's mostly, the percentage population is mostly white. London, like I said, is very, very multicultural, which a lot of people are not aware of. Yeah. But there are circumstances where I would go and, but I don't know, I think, I'm just, like I said, it's just an inner strength. Unless you get older, it doesn't affect me at all, to be honest with you. But also, it's nice feeling that belonging. I know how she felt, and I can imagine, because she's, again, in the sort of career that she was following, there weren't a lot of Black actors.
No.
So going and listening to different music, because that's the thing about African Americans, they haven't got it's a different experience to the Caribbean heritage people, for us. They haven't really, it's like they're African American. It's like, it's different. So even though they're, especially the ones that were born in America, they are American in a way.
Yeah.
They haven't, like, for me, I've got my Caribbean roots. So I'm eating Caribbean food. I'm eating, it's a little bit different. I think the Black experience in America and those of Caribbean heritage living in England or other, in America, because our culture is very different.
Yeah,
it's very different because they're more American. I can't explain it because
is there a longer history in America of being born in America?
I think it's not as it's
because how long have Black people been in England?
Pardon?
Because England is originally very, very white throughout history.
Yes.
So when did Black people start to move to England? It must be later than America.
No, Black people have been around for a very long time in England, but it's just not written in the history. We're talking centuries ago. But if you're talking about the influx of Black people coming in,
about bigger populations.
It would have been the 50s, 60s, maybe coming from the Caribbean, because obviously slavery was illegal in England, but the English went and obviously did slavery in the other countries. So if you were, it's different, and I don't know, because like what I've noticed is, and it's sad because obviously we were stopped from reading and writing, and if they hadn't taken us out of Africa, because they did it one way doesn't mean the other person's way is different. We all read and write, and we write, and our languages are different and everything like that, but all of this was beaten into us, basically religion, all sorts of stuff. So it is very watered down. The foods might be, it's little, when you look at some of the food dishes, you look and think, oh, you can see where the influence came from and how it changed, or you can see the African influence and everything like that. But I find with the African American, I don't know, but I'm again talking from just my point of view, like the African Americans, I think their culture is a little bit different. They're very American, and you don't really hear them talking about our ancestors didn't really talk about struggles. I think because it was so bad. So everything, so even like the African Americans, it's like, even though it was quite close and I can't explain it. We still, even their roots, we don't know what their real surnames are, their real names. It's like, it's just been washed out, basically. They haven't got dishes like the southern side of America. They have, obviously you can see the influence there, you know, but like, you know, people maybe from the other parts of America have, you know, they haven't got that, the black dish, there's no dishes that are like how the Caribbean's like. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
I don't know what, it's just different. They're very,
but there's also whole states in America that are far more white.
Different. Exactly. But I think, you know, our experience, Caribbean's experiences, black, even though we, you know, obviously it's a bit different. I think the experiences and just the culture is a little bit different. You know, Americans tend to also, you know, a lot of them stay in America. I don't think they, you know, I don't know if a lot of them go to Africa. Yeah, there are, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them go, they want to go back to their roots and stuff like that, because even when you wanted to have your locks and go back to your roots, people look at you as Afrocentric and you're weird and you're this and you're that. And I think it's quite nice now that everybody is taking on and realizing, you know, you need to be proud of where your ancestors come from. You need to be proud that, you know, because back then there was even a clash with Africans and Caribbeans when I was growing up.
Yeah.
You know, we would get called names because obviously, you know, we were, you know, the Africans, they're full-blooded Africans that, you know, nobody interfered with them. And then you get the Caribbeans in my time growing up, but we were just, you know, it didn't impact on us because we were, I think I liked my generation actually. But we would get called names, and obviously we wouldn't have African names. You know, we had Welsh, Scottish, and English names. Yeah. Where like my African friends have got their proper, you know, their proper African surnames. Yeah. Which is nice. Yeah. Yeah. You know, so that whole belonging, it's a tricky one, you know, and I think, you know, the African, you know, it was hard. It's not been easy. It's not been easy with the life as time goes on through generations. It's still there. Yeah. The same way how it's still there for white people always thinking that they're superior to the blacks. Yeah. You know, that we're always at the bottom and that we're not intelligent or we're not this.
And some people aren't even doing it necessarily consciously. It's just
it's unconscious.
So deeply
they don't realize it's ingrained in them. It's instilled in them. Yeah. And I think it's really about, you know, before judging, getting to know people from different countries. And I think being well traveled makes such a difference as well. Yeah.
It's like what your brother said to me, you know, don't worry about changing the 70-year-old's mind. You know, they're a different generation with a different way of thinking. It's, you know, it's the young ones now that really need to, you know, learn and listen to the stories from different places and people.